Many older men misunderstand why attraction fades with younger women. They assume the problem is age itself, when in reality, age is rarely the issue. The real collapse begins much earlier, inside the man's own mind. The moment he starts seeing a younger woman as a rare opportunity instead of a normal human being. He tells himself she is special, scarce, and easily lost. He believes she has endless options and that one wrong move will cost him everything. This internal fear quietly reshapes his behavior. And that shift is what kills attraction. When a man idolizes a woman, his confidence dissolves. He starts agreeing with everything she says, even when he doesn't mean it. He compliments too much, too often, and without grounding. He responds instantly to every message, afraid that silence might make her forget him. He avoids honest opinions, avoids tension, avoids any edge that could challenge her. Conversations become overly safe, polite, and predictable. Nothing feels risky anymore. Nothing feels masculine. What he thinks is effort, she experiences as anxiety. Attraction does not grow from worship. It grows from polarity. Younger women, especially those drawn to older men, are not looking for a fan or a servant. They are looking for a man who chooses them, not one who places them on a pedestal out of fear. Idolization communicates a dangerous message: I am afraid to lose you. Fear is not confidence, and confidence is the foundation of attraction. The irony is that many older men have exactly what younger women are drawn to life experience: emotional stability, perspective, and calm presence. But the moment they start trying to protect the connection instead of simply experiencing it, they give all of that away. Mystery disappears. Tension collapses. The dynamic becomes flat and overly familiar before attraction has even had a chance to grow. The corrective shift is simple, but not easy. An older man must stop trying to win her and start trying to know her. He must release outcome dependence and accept that he does not need to be chosen to be valuable. When he approaches her from curiosity rather than fear, his masculine presence naturally returns. He becomes grounded again, relaxed again, and unpredictable in a healthy way. And once that internal shift happens, something subtle but powerful changes in how she feels around him. But this is only the first trap. The next mistake many older men make is just as damaging. And it often hides behind something society praises. To understand it, we need to talk about money and the false sense of security it creates. When confidence begins to crack, many older men reach for the easiest tool they believe still gives them leverage: money. Instead of calming their insecurity, they try to compensate for it. They assume that youth and appearance are currencies they can no longer compete with. So they replace presence with provision. On the surface, this looks generous. In reality, it often feels heavy and uncomfortable to the woman receiving it. This pattern usually starts early. Expensive dates appear before emotional connection has formed. Gifts arrive before trust is built. Lifestyle is subtly flexed, not out of joy, but out of fear. The underlying message is rarely spoken, yet clearly felt: I need to impress you, so you'll stay. What the man hopes will create attraction instead creates pressure. What he thinks signals value instead signals anxiety. Younger women are highly sensitive to emotional subtext. When spending is driven by nervous energy, it doesn't feel like generosity, it feels like expectation. It feels like a silent contract being written without her consent. Even if she enjoys the dinner or appreciates the gesture, something inside her tightens. She senses that a price is being paid and that something will be owed later. Attraction cannot grow where obligation exists. Over time, this dynamic often turns toxic. The man begins to feel entitled to attention, loyalty, or emotional access because of what he has spent. When his expectations are not met, resentment quietly builds. He tells himself he has been used, while ignoring the fact that he created a transactional structure from the beginning. Acceptance becomes confused with respect, and generosity becomes a bargaining chip. Money has power, but it is not the power of attraction. It can enhance an experience, but it cannot replace confidence. When a man uses spending to secure affection, he teaches the woman to relate to him through transactions rather than desire. This destroys polarity and turns romance into negotiation. The healthier approach is calm, normal spending that matches the stage of connection. An older man who is grounded does not rush to prove his value financially. He enjoys shared experiences instead of trying to buy loyalty. He gives when it feels earned and natural, not when anxiety demands reassurance. In doing so, he communicates something far more attractive than wealth, emotional security. But financial overinvestment is only one way insecurity leaks out. Another common mistake is more subtle, more socially accepted, and often disguised as wisdom. It happens when older men begin speaking to younger women not as equals, but as children, and that is where attraction quietly dies next. One of the fastest ways an older man loses attraction with a younger woman is by turning age into authority. What begins as confidence in life experience slowly becomes lecturing, correcting, and positioning himself as the one who knows better. On the surface, this behavior looks like guidance or care. Underneath, it is often insecurity trying to justify itself through dominance. This shows up in small, seemingly harmless moments. He interrupts to explain things she did not ask to be explained. He dismisses her opinions with phrases like, "You'll understand when you're older," or "Trust me, I've lived." He corrects her worldview instead of exploring it. Each time he does this, he unintentionally sends the message that he sees himself above her rather than beside her. Attraction does not survive in that space. Younger women are not looking for a father figure or a teacher in romantic relationships. They are looking for respect, curiosity, and emotional equality. When a man talks down to her, she feels small. When she feels small, she does not feel desire. The dynamic quietly shifts from man and woman to parent and child. And once that shift happens, attraction collapses almost instantly. Many men justify this behavior by believing their experience gives them the right to instruct. But true confidence does not need to announce itself. A man who is grounded does not need to prove his intelligence or life lessons. His calm presence speaks for him. His restraint signals strength. His willingness to listen communicates security. The corrective behavior is not silence, but balance. Lead without lecturing. Share perspectives without forcing conclusions. Ask questions instead of delivering speeches. Allow her to arrive at insights on her own. When an older man listens deeply, without rushing to correct or dominate the conversation, he becomes intriguing rather than controlling. Paradoxically, this restraint makes his maturity more attractive, not less. She feels respected. She feels seen. And when she feels respected, she naturally becomes more open, more playful, and more emotionally available. The man does not lose authority by doing this. He gains influence without pressure. But even when an older man avoids lecturing, insecurity can still leak out in other ways. One of the most destructive is jealousy, especially when it is masked as concern or care. This next behavior slowly poisons the emotional atmosphere and pushes younger women away without them fully understanding why. Jealousy is one of the clearest signs that an older man does not trust his own value. Yet, it is often expressed in subtle and socially acceptable ways. It rarely looks like open accusations. Instead, it hides behind excessive concern, constant curiosity, and quiet monitoring. The man tells himself he is just being careful. But what the woman feels is pressure. This behavior is driven by a single belief that younger men are better competition. When an older man secretly thinks he is replaceable, he becomes hyper-aware of her social world. He asks too many questions about who she is with. He notices small changes in her behavior and reads meaning into them. He checks in more often than necessary, disguising control as interest. Each of these actions erodes the emotional safety of the connection, rather than preventing betrayal. Jealousy creates the conditions for it. The relationship loses its lightness. Playfulness disappears. The woman begins to feel watched instead of wanted. Over time, she may pull back emotionally just to breathe again, ironically. This withdrawal then confirms the man's fears, trapping him in a self-created cycle. Younger women are especially sensitive to emotional tension. When a man is calm and secure, the relationship feels free. When he is anxious and suspicious, the relationship feels heavy. Attraction cannot survive in an environment where every interaction carries unspoken stress. The truth many men avoid is that jealousy does not protect love. Control does not create loyalty. Surveillance does not build trust. A man cannot monitor someone into choosing him. The only real security comes from self-respect and emotional independence. The healthier standard is simple but powerful control access to yourself, not to her, instead of watching her behavior. Observe your own boundaries. Decide what behavior you accept and what you walk away from. Calm boundaries communicate strength far more effectively than questioning ever could. When a man knows he will be fine, even if the relationship ends, his nervous system relaxes. That relaxation is felt immediately by the woman. Confidence is not the belief that nothing will go wrong. It is the belief that you will handle whatever happens without losing yourself. When an older man embodies this, jealousy dissolves naturally, and attraction has space to breathe again. But insecurity does not always express itself as fear. Sometimes it appears as control masked by maturity. The next mistake many older men make is using the age gap itself as a power move, turning what should be an asset into a weapon. And that shift quietly kills desire. Some older men move past insecurity and jealousy, only to fall into a different trap using the age gap as a source of power. Instead of letting maturity speak for itself, they try to enforce it. They expect obedience, compliance, or deference simply because they are older. What they believe is leadership is often experienced as dominance. This behavior usually appears subtly. He insists that he knows better. He frames his preferences as the correct way to do things. He expects her to adapt to his pace, his rules, and his emotional standards because he is more serious or more established. Over time, the relationship begins to feel hierarchical rather than romantic. She is no longer choosing him freely. She is responding to pressure. Younger women are not drawn to authority that has to announce itself. Forced authority feels insecure, not wise. When a man relies on age to justify control, he reveals that he does not trust his presence alone to lead. What could have been a natural polarity becomes a quiet power struggle. True maturity does not need to be declared. It is felt. It shows up as consistency, emotional stability, and calm decision-making. A grounded older man does not demand respect. He creates an environment where respect naturally arises. He does not pressure a woman into submission. He leads in a way that makes her feel safe to relax. Attraction grows when leadership is experienced, not enforced. When a man is steady, predictable in his values, and relaxed in his expectations, the woman feels emotionally held rather than controlled. That sense of safety often leads to genuine emotional submission, not because she is weaker, but because she trusts him. The problem with using age as leverage is that it destroys choice. And without choice, desire fades. Romance requires freedom when a woman feels she is being managed instead of met. Her interest slowly disappears, even if she cannot explain why. Older men who truly succeed with younger women understand this instinctively. They do not weaponize maturity. They embody it. They allow their age to be a foundation, not a tool of dominance. Yet even men who avoid power games can sabotage attraction in another way, by apologizing for their age entirely. The next mistake is almost the opposite of dominance. And it shows up when older men try desperately to look young instead of confidently being who they are. When an older man feels uneasy about aging, he often tries to erase the gap instead of owning it. This shows up as forced youthfulness rather than natural confidence. He adopts slang that does not fit him. He dresses like someone a decade younger without understanding proportion or presence. He competes with younger men instead of differentiating himself from them. All of this quietly communicates the same message: being young is better than being me. Younger women notice this immediately. What the man hopes will make him relatable instead makes him feel inauthentic. Attraction is built on coherence between who a man is and how he presents himself. When there is a mismatch, it creates discomfort. The woman may not consciously analyze it, but she feels it in her body. Something feels off. The irony is that many younger women are drawn to older men precisely because of what youth lacks: calm, groundedness, emotional control, and perspective. When an older man tries to imitate youth, he abandons the very qualities that made him attractive in the first place. He stops standing out and starts blending in poorly. Owning age does not mean looking careless or outdated. It means embracing simplicity and intentionality. Clean grooming, fitted, understated clothing, relaxed posture, slow, deliberate movements. These signals communicate self-respect far more powerfully than trend-chasing ever could. Health should be pursued for energy and vitality, not as a desperate attempt to appear young. Confidence grows when age is accepted without apology. A man who is at peace with where he is in life radiates stability. He does not rush. He does not perform. He does not compete. He simply occupies his space fully. That presence is deeply attractive. Younger women do not need an older man to look 25. They need him to feel solid. When he stops hiding his age and starts standing comfortably inside it, attraction naturally recalibrates. However, there is one final mistake that quietly undermines everything. Even when a man appears confident on the surface, it is subtle, often unconscious, and deeply repelling. It emerges when older men believe that age, stability, or seriousness entitles them to loyalty, and that belief changes everything. Entitlement is one of the most quietly destructive traits an older man can bring into a relationship, and it often hides behind seriousness and good intentions. He believes that because he is stable, committed, or emotionally available, he deserves a certain level of loyalty, priority, or compliance. He may never say it directly, but the expectation is there, and it shapes how he behaves. This entitlement reveals itself in subtle ways. He expects her to behave differently because he is serious. He assumes his efforts should guarantee consistency from her. He frames his stability as something she should appreciate by adjusting herself to his needs. Over time, The relationship begins to feel less like desire and more like obligation. Love starts to feel like a debt. Younger women are especially sensitive to this emotional weight. When affection comes with expectations attached, attraction collapses. No one wants to feel managed or morally pressured into choosing someone, even when the man is kind. Entitlement drains the freedom from the connection. Romance cannot survive where choice is replaced by duty. The core misunderstanding is this seriousness is attractive, but entitlement is not. A man can want commitment without demanding it. He can value loyalty without assuming it is owed. The moment he believes his age or stability guarantees him a certain outcome, he stops relating from self-respect and starts relating from control. The replacement for entitlement is standards. Standards are quiet. They are not announced or enforced through pressure. They are simply lived. When respect is present, he invests. When inconsistency appears, he steps back without drama. When disrespect shows up, he leaves calmly. There are no speeches, no ultimatums, no emotional manipulation, just aligned action. This shift changes everything. Instead of trying to extract loyalty, the man becomes someone loyalty feels safe with. Instead of demanding seriousness, he embodies it. Self-respect replaces resentment. Boundaries replace expectation. And paradoxically, this is what creates deeper attraction. A woman can feel the difference immediately. She senses that she is choosing him, not being recruited into a contract. That freedom makes commitment meaningful again. When entitlement disappears, something powerful takes its place: quiet confidence. And when that confidence is combined with age, experience, and emotional stability, the result is not rejection, but respect and desire. To understand how all of these pieces come together, we need to step back and see the full picture of what younger women are truly responding to. When all of these patterns are seen together, a clear truth emerges. Younger women are not rejecting older men because of age. They are rejecting what age-related fear turns men into: insecurity, neediness, control, and entitlement are the real deal breakers. Age simply becomes the excuse when attraction has already collapsed. An older man becomes unattractive the moment he starts apologizing for who he is. When he idolizes, he shrinks himself. When he buys attention, he negotiates desire. When he lectures, he replaces polarity with hierarchy. When he becomes jealous, he poisons peace. When he uses age as power, he kills choice. When he tries to look young, he abandons authenticity. And when he feels entitled, he turns love into obligation. None of these behaviors are about age. They are about fear. What younger women actually respond to is the opposite energy. They are drawn to men who are calm rather than reactive, grounded rather than performative, self-respecting rather than approval-seeking. They are drawn to men who lead without controlling, who listen without shrinking, and who set boundaries without punishment. Age, when embodied correctly, amplifies all of these traits instead of weakening them. A grounded older man does not compete with youth. He offers something different. He offers emotional stability, clarity, and presence. He is not trying to be chosen at any cost. He is selective. He enjoys the connection without clinging to the outcome. That emotional independence creates space, and space is where attraction breathes. The paradox is simple. The moment a man stops trying to secure attraction, he becomes attractive. The moment he stops fearing loss, he becomes harder to replace. Younger women sense when a man knows his worth without needing to prove it. That energy is felt immediately and deeply. Age becomes attractive the moment it is owned rather than hidden. apologized for, or weaponized. When a man stands comfortably in who he is, his years stop being a liability and start becoming an asset. He no longer leads with insecurity or expectation, but with quiet certainty. And that is the final message. Younger women are not rejecting older men. They are rejecting men who have not yet made peace with themselves. The man who does that no longer worries about age at all, because his presence speaks louder than numbers ever could.